Hi, girlies. Welcome to Book Please podcast. We're so excited to be back for another episode. I have my girlies with me.
Hi, it's Nata.
Hi, it's Amanda.
And we have been reading The Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. And let me tell you, this book, obviously has me in my feels, but it has me thinking about celebrity couples, divorces. Like, I am just like, first of all, I'm rethinking everything I know from this book. Just like who is here for real, who's here for press. But there have been some major divorces recently that I feel like we need to talk about. Obviously, like some of our idols like Nata and J-Lo and A-Rod in 2021 broke up. And then Kim and Kanye
I gotta correct
broke
that
up.
statement.
Okay.
I wouldn't say J-Lo's an idol any longer, and I have thoughts as to why, but
that's fair.
And the reason she isn't is because I realized how money hungry she was about, for example, all her career, she would say, I don't drink alcohol and I don't drink coffee. That's the, fountain of youth. That's the reason I'm so youthful.
And
yet
no
you
Botox,
just released
nothing.
an alcohol. Yeah, yet you just released an alcohol and a coffee brand. So that to me was, once I saw that, like, you'll do anything for money. Even if it's not your brand and within your character, I was like, nah, I idolize myself.
I hear you. Like, there's a saying, and it's like, who is your role model? Who do you look up to? And I forget who said it, but the quote is like, myself in 10 years. And that's true. Like, you can't compare yourself to anybody.
That was Matthew McConaughey.
Yes. I was going to say, I think it is, but I didn't want to be incorrect. And that makes me think of somebody that I feel super close to who, well, I've always sort of looked up to Ariana Grande. I've loved her. Like, it was like, I swear, part of my personality for so long, where anytime somebody saw anything about Ari, it's like, oh, Alina this. And even when she actually was in a relationship with Dalton Gomez, who is a real estate agent. He's a normal guy. They met in the pandemic in 2020, and they've recently got divorced, just very recently, and have been married for 2 years, been together for 3. I loved her. I love how she was preaching, like manifesting therapy, like self-love. There's so many things. Her voice is just unmatched, in my opinion. It's like you really don't know people. Like the book is teaching us, you don't really know these people like that. You can think that certain things that they stand for you align with, but that's as far as it goes. I feel like I'm learning more and more as I grow older. Mm-hmm. This is how I feel about this situation. They were together for years. She goes off to film Wicked. Okay. I love you, Ari. I feel bad. I really feel bad. It pains me. If anyone knows me, this pains me. She went off to film Wicked in London. Things happen. Her man is back in the States, like whatever. They divorce. That's one thing. And there could be a million reasons why people say like it was a pandemic love. The real world made things challenging. And I understand that. But then she ends up maybe weeks later that we hear of, maybe, or within months, with one of her castmates in the film.
That was just married. Going through a divorce. Yeah, married. I saw that.
The divorce literally came out while they're filming, and I think the divorce is literally spawning from everything happening.
Yeah, I think
it happens a lot, actually.
I mean, we don't know. We don't know the details.
Like, I think about Brad Pitt. How many times did he meet someone on set and end up dating them? So I feel like it kind of happens a lot.
Insane. But it's like, okay, girl, you're going through a divorce. That's fine. Leave this poor little guy alone. Like, I am just like,
he has on this the little
family, literally. Like, guys, if you see him, I mean, I can't, like, God forgive me. But like, he's this little like nerdy dude. He was in theater. Like, he is just nothing like anything that she's ever gone for. And I heard a lot of things that people are comparing it to like going away to camp, or like cutest boy in the class syndrome, where like they're in a bubble on set, like they're, you know, it's like the funny guy in class or like in camp that you're away with. And then when you go into the real world, you're like, okay, like, you know, you have unlimited options. He just had a baby with his wife last year. It pains me. And then I started to see all these people coming out like, yeah, she dated all these men like right out of their, like, it's like they would end a relationship and the next day she'd publicly be with whatever guy. And I'm like, oh my God.
Some people just can't be in their own company. They just can't be alone. So they always have to be with somebody.
Yeah. And I don't know what the case is here, but it's giving me the ick.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
I don't know. I'm one of those people where I don't know what's going on. I'm just like, who knows timelines, who knows what, but
I don't even care about her divorce. It's the man who's in this marriage with this woman that he's been with for 10 years who just had a baby. Mm-hmm. Like, you couldn't just leave them alone. She was liking their photos and everything. Like,
that's what I heard.
The wife I've seen it. Like, I've literally seen her liking their couple photos. Like, this just happened. You know what I mean? Like, this doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
Amanda.
I didn't know all this. I just knew she was going through a divorce. I didn't know there was like someone else. I didn't know.
No, she's going through a divorce. His name is Ethan Slater. Let me just say this. Ethan Slater, you're to blame even more so because that is your wife. And you saw the shiny new toy overseas. You know you could never get Ariana Grande and you left everything. And you know what? I hope this bitch runs far away and lives happily ever after and gets the man she deserves that will never turn his head. You're going to be in this relationship for 2 months with her and she's going to see the next thing as soon as she leaves this project. Like, come on now, be realistic. What are you willing to give up? Anyways.
Yeah.
You feel very strongly about this.
I get it.
I was like just shook and I love her.
Mm-hmm. You idolize her.
Yeah, I did. And I was really like taken aback by this whole thing. And I felt connected to her in a lot of ways. We're around the same age. We have similar interests. And I felt like I aligned with a lot of her mindset. And, you know, something about me that you guys might not know is like, my dream from when I was a kid, like I always dreamed of being a singer. Like that was my like life goal. That was my passion.
Mm-hmm. Can you sing?
It's just like, we'll talk about it another
time. Now I need
to
hear it.
But I always used to sing. I used to do plays. I used to do everything. But
your mom needs to send us these videos.
More and more. No. I used to cry when she would show people. As I got older, it's like I went more in my shell. I got more and more conscious of everyone around me, and I would start making excuses as to why I wouldn't want to do certain performance or this or that. It was bad, but I felt very connected to her. And the other thing was we ran into just recently when we were in Hoboken, if you guys remember from another episode, Joe Manganiello and Sofia Vergara with their dog in the streets of Hoboken, having lunch, staying out at the W Hotel, like on a trip. And their relationship, they met in 2014. And they were married for 6-7 years. It's
7
heartbreaking.
Years. When I saw that they got divorced, I went into a rabbit hole. Reddit, any listeners that have the Reddit app, forget it. Conspiracy theories, just that takes you down the rabbit hole. But I was just so amused by it, especially since you guys recently saw them. I didn't see them, but it was so fresh in my mind. And a few things that came out, and I have thoughts about this. I'd love to hear what you guys think. So first theory was he wanted to have a child and she was done having kids. She has one son that I believe is 30 years old and she no longer wanted to have children.
I heard that one too.
My thing with that, if that is the truth, that is a conversation that's had before marriage and before commitment.
That's what I was going to say.
100%.
Yes. This is what I see for myself. This is what I want. Are you aligned with that? That, 100%. If that was the reason for their demise, that could have easily been avoided. Second thing that could have easily been avoided as well, that is circulating kind of a little bit more than the baby theory, is lifestyle. So he apparently is sober. He's been sober for years now. He likes to lead a relaxing lifestyle. He doesn't like to party. He doesn't like to go out. Whereas she is like the life of the party. She loves to drink. She loves to go out. She loves like the finer things. And it kind of made me think about a relationship that I was in. And there is a spectrum. I agree, there is a spectrum. You know, there is, you want to go out, you're more of a homebody. But if you have two opposites that are polar opposites on the spectrum, opposites attract, but they don't last. And I stand firmly behind that. If you have someone that likes to go out and party and someone that's more of a homebody, it's always going to be an issue. It just is. And
I
so
I feel like that's definitely like a lifestyle thing. Like that's a huge difference.
Mhm.
yes,
Opposites can be like opposite interests and things like that. And sometimes you learn things from each other and you complement each other and it's a beautiful thing. But if you have somebody who's like out partying and then these are big things where also your partner is missing from this like core part of your life that you enjoy
right.
and going out and stuff like that when you're in a when you're in a marriage for so long is a different, if this, I mean, we don't know if this is the case, but I'm just speaking to the concept is, it's a little challenging and there's a gray area. Like if you're just, not going out and you're out drinking late at night and you're not with your partner, whether you're the man or the woman, it's like,
I think especially when there's an element of someone leading a sober lifestyle and just no alcohol and can't be around it, that must be even more challenging to the whole, I don't like to go out, I don't like to be around it. So if that's the case, I could see why that would be a problem.
Was he sober when they first started dating? Because
I
if he's
have
always
no
been
idea. I
sober,
didn't
I
go
mean,
that far.
that's different. Yes. If he's always been
Yeah.
sober and they've figured out a fit, like it really, the truth is in any relationship, all the little things will eventually become big things. You guys
Mm-hmm.
have to make sure you're aligned on like lifestyle and core values and certain things. And even if you're different, you both have to understand the other person and be okay with like certain things. Like always
Mm-hmm.
set a boundary and you have to be aligned on like, okay, if you like to do this, I'm okay with having my night into myself and I like that time. That's different, right? Every couple is different, every situation is different. And I always feel like you never,
Mm-hmm.
unless you're in the relationship, you don't know it like the people inside. So people can speculate. As long as you're okay with it and you guys are aligned,
Of
that's one thing.
course.
But if there's things
mhm.
that you're continuously letting go of or have always bothered you and you don't
Sacrificing.
work through it, yes, and you don't work through it early, that's going to be the thing later that it's like you're going to get to the point where enough is enough eventually. Not in relation to
Of
Sophia and Joe,
course.
but just
But
generally speaking.
luckily, they had a prenup in place. Obviously, they did. Most celebrities do. But what are your guys' thoughts on prenups? Because I have my thoughts.
I could go down a rabbit hole with this. So for me, I would say that you should, like, if you built a career and name for yourself, you should protect yourself like 100%. But then on the other end, I think of it like if you love someone, does that like really matter? I know it depends on the couple too, but I also look at it at the other end. If you're like a woman, you marry a man that has all this money and you become like a kept woman, and then, you sign a prenup and then, he leaves you a few years later and you ended your career. Like, you have to always think about yourself, I feel like, even when it comes to a marriage. So I think you should always protect what you have and what you built. But I'm also someone that I'm not going to tell you what to do, what to sign, do what you want. But I would personally protect myself if and if you loved me, you should understand that, I built this and I want to share it with you, but like as a married
Yeah.
couple, not if you leave me one day.
Right. Right. Alina?
I think a prenup is super personal. So it's all about like you and the other person and your comfort levels and like a whole discussion in your own relationship. I just think what I feel most strongly about is, of course, if you're already established, if you're a celebrity, because we know how unfortunately marriages and relationships go in Hollywood, I think definitely it's a no brainer. Like when you're in that situation, you should definitely protect yourself. And you don't know also like it could flip and the other, celebrity could become the bigger one or whatever. Like just, the main things that are important to you or make sure that you're always good at the end of the day. As far as like personal thoughts, I'm not really sure, like, because I'm not at that status. So I don't know that I've given it thought like because I know there are some people that feel super offended when a man presents them with a prenup. I
Hmm.
don't feel that way. I don't feel strongly for or against one. Like I feel like it's a conversation I would have with my partner, hear each other out on thoughts. Like I would need to like research, you know, all of my rights and things and see from there. But I think for if we're talking about, you know, Hollywood, I mean, with all of this money and assets involved, it's a no-brainer for sure. And when you do hear the rare cases of someone not having one, it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's so true. For me, I am a huge proponent of prenups. I think that it's a no brainer this day and age. You're protecting yourself. What you come in
Hmm.
with is what you should leave with as well. I think anybody that's women that draw that line, like, I will not, if you're going to make me sign a prenup, I will not marry you. This is ridiculous.
Hmm.
Those, my suspicions are those women probably have $5,000 in their checking or savings
Red
account,
flag.
and they're looking to get something out of the situation if it goes left, because if you're
Intentions.
doing it for
Hmm.
love, there's no interest there, there's just love. Like, you love that person and you want to
Yeah.
make it a marriage, you want to make it like
Exactly.
a
Hmm.
lifelong commitment. So I feel bad for men or women. I mean, there's women that get the
Yeah. Totally.
brunt of it as well if they're
Hmm.
successful or they come from money. But you work, let's say you go to school 4 years, you get your MBA, you work your ass off, and then it doesn't work out with the partner that you loved 10 years ago. There was love at one time, but emotions change, people change, situations change, environments change. 10 years later, that might be a completely different person that you don't see yourself like growing old with. But now you have to split everything down the middle, like
Yeah.
everything you worked for. And Amanda, you touched on, what if I stay home and I'm not making any money? I think that is up to you as a woman to make that decision. Hey, I have to work part time. Or hey, if you want me to do A, B, C, D, let's set up like a little business for me on the side, or some way that I can start making
Exactly.
passive
Hmm.
income. Because if you want me to be a spoken for woman that's just a homemaker and I'm taking care of the kids and I'm really catering to you, I'm not making a salary, then that's something. Let's talk about how I can protect myself, and because if you can't have hard conversations before you
Hmm.
get
Yeah.
married, you have no business getting married. If you're scared and you're like, oh, how's this going to make him feel, or I'm scared to ask him this, you have no business getting married.
Totally.
And I was just
Totally.
going to say, on the other end of that, too, if the man does love you, he would understand that you want to be okay regardless.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I'm already thinking this isn't going to work. It's, I want to feel sound in this relationship and I need a form of income just so, I feel comfortable.
Exactly.
I feel some type of way too of like, you always want to feel, no matter what, God forbid, that you can just get up and go if you need to. You never want to feel trapped. And I feel like even just being in a relationship, even if everything's perfect, I just have this, I don't know if it's just my nature of like being more independent, but just this like, I don't know that I would want to be the person to ask for every little thing. Like if I want to go get a bag or something like that, I don't want to, not that you have to ask, but like I never want to feel like I have to justify it or anything or like feel weird. Like I just want to go get something like for myself and feel good about it. And I feel like I don't know, maybe that's just my nature. Like even with my partner, he always tells me like, let me help you, let me do this, put this down. Like I'll get a piece of furniture delivered and he'll be like, don't touch that until I get home because he wants to put it, he knows I'll put it together by the time he gets home.
I'm the same
And
way.
I'm like, no, I want to do it. Like I
Mm-hmm.
just can't see myself doing nothing. And like he always jokes and says, like, no, you're not going to be working for much longer. And I'm like, no, I will always, that's something that as women we always have to be careful of. Like no matter what situation you're in, you don't
Mm-hmm.
know. Of course, like divorce is a terrible thing, but it's also, it could be a healthy thing, it could be a necessary thing. Like in this day and age, like we have resources, we do not need to depend on anybody.
Hmm.
You need to protect yourself and your assets. If you're somebody going into it with something, you need to know if you're married for 2 days or 6 months or 6 years, that person, if you don't get a prenup, will be entitled to half what you
Yeah.
had before,
If I
you
had
know.
to guess, I would say the biggest reason people get divorced is lack of communication. So kind of like what you said,
100.
Alina, I'm just like you. I don't like to ask for a thing. Like I will figure it out on my own before I even like I could be with you for 10 years and I still don't want to ask you for a thing. And I feel like that's something I'm trying to work on too because I should feel comfortable with my partner. That if I did need them, if I did need something, I should be comfortable enough to ask them, but I feel like I'm not. I'm just
Sure.
very like you said, it's
Mm-hmm.
super independent.
That's
I don't want to ask for a thing.
That's a little different too, because it's not like you're not comfortable with your partner. It's
Mhm.
just it's your nature.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit different. And this is something that we see in the book too. It's like, it's a little bit farther back in time where now I think women, it's different where like women are having their careers and thriving and they're on their own and they're more independent and it's
Mhm.
less about like the woman is lesser. So I think it's different, but something that I actually wanted to bring up too, not that when you were saying about how like, you can see when a marriage is just kind of like transactional
Mm-hmm.
and how someone could be, just like fighting for this money or whatever it is. I
Mm-hmm.
get that same sour taste when I see all of these things coming out about child support, where one of the parents is getting $50,000, $70,000, but is like fighting for $100,000, $300,000 a month, just because it's an
Mm-hmm.
actor or an actress or a singer or whoever. And it's like, give me a break. You don't need hundreds of thousands of dollars per month for your one toddler. Like, come on. Come on.
So I recently watched a documentary on an interview where they were interviewing the top divorce attorney in Los Angeles. And
Mhm.
I got so many good nuggets out of this interview. And I think it's instrumental to watch these kind of things if you are looking to get married in the future. And just, you need to know what you're getting into. Like marriage is, love can only take you so far. Like there's commitment, there's compromise, there's a partnership, a friendship. There's so much that goes into a marriage. But he said 40% of people now don't believe in marriage. 40% of men
Oh
technically
my
don't believe in
goodness.
marriage anymore. And he was telling a really interesting story of a client he was representing, married for 5 years. This woman was gorgeous. I mean, drop dead gorgeous. They were both beautiful. And they're fighting tooth and nail, like hate each other. But at one
Mm.
point, there was so much love there, but now they can't stand to be in the same room together. And he goes, how did you know this was coming? Like when you filed for divorce? And she goes, there was one specific granola that I used to love to eat with my yogurt, and it was only in one store. You could only find this granola in one store. And every time I was going low on the granola, he would fill it up for me every month, every year. Like he would continue filling it up for me. And then one day I go to the granola and it's almost halfway down, but it hasn't been filled up. And she's like, oh, maybe he forgot. I'll check again tomorrow. She checks tomorrow. He didn't fill it. Then she takes the bag out to really show and puts it at the top of the cabinet, and he completely ignored it. And she's like, that's when I knew
I'm gonna
that there
cry.
was somebody else.
Hmm. Oh, there was someone
Oh
else?
my goodness.
Because it's patterns. He's like, it's patterns. Let's say
Yes.
your partner every morning texts you good morning. One morning, they don't text you good morning. The next morning, they don't text you good morning. That's a broken pattern right there. That's
It's the
something that
inconsistency.
it's the inconsistency, and there's so much more to that. You might look at it like, oh, he just forgot, or no,
Yeah.
there's more to it.
You try and
Intimacy, he
justify
said,
it.
intimacy was another one. He's like, just if people were more intimate, intimacy is something that you need to keep on at if you're going to be in a marriage for 20 years, you've got to keep it spicy. You've got to keep
For
it
sure.
intimate, because then, people have a wandering eye when they're not
I
getting
hear
attention
that
from their
now.
partner.
I hear that now of like people our age saying like that they struggle with that. And I'm like, you're, late 20s, 30s. If that's happening now,
there's a
Like, just
lot of forms.
reevaluate.
There's a lot of forms of intimacy. It doesn't have to be the intimacy all the way. It could be holding
For sure.
hands,
Date
having an
nights.
intimate conversation,
Mhm.
hugging, a deep conversation. It doesn't always have to be that end goal of,
Physical.
without
Yes.
getting into specifics, but it's just, like if you're going to have a partner, you got to be intimate with them. People love to feel desired and loved.
Yeah.
We all want to feel desired.
And I think something that's important too is like having little check-ins with your partner, and like, every once in a while, just keeping up that communication, being committed, like you said, Amanda, to your date nights, to different things that you're putting in effort for
Mhm.
each other. Because at the end of the day, like, this is who you're going to spend your life with. And it's so important to keep those kinds of things going, for sure.
And this divorce attorney was like, I have 2 sons and they're both getting prenups no matter what. I don't care if they're head over heels for a girl, love her more than anything, they're getting prenups. He's like, I shouldn't even be saying this because this is my bread and butter, having people go at it and money's involved. But if people were just to put prenups down and be like, hey, I love you, but this is, I want to protect what's mine and I want you to protect what's yours. I mean, you're covering your bases because you may think in that moment that you are in love with someone, like the woman with the granola. And there was a moment they were in love with each other and now they can't even be in the same room together.
Yeah. That's unfortunate when you see things go so sour. I think it was sweet how Amanda, too, when we were talking about this earlier, she was like trying to bring in like the positive spin of like, but there are so many people that you can look at that are
In
a
Hollywood.
good
In
example of a
Hollywood.
healthy relationship. Yes, in Hollywood, because our book is rather depressing. Tell us your positive examples.
Perfect. So I feel like, okay, so my favorite, I would say Matthew McConaughey and his wife. They've been together for 17 years. So that was lovely to see. Okay, then
Aw,
this one I'm a little biased
so
on
cute.
because Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith have been together for
Ooh,
28
that is not
years.
I
rules,
would never
girl.
pick
But,
that.
but,
Let's
but,
no,
let me
no.
explain.
Cancel,
Since their
cancel.
entanglement, since their
The
entanglement,
I don't like
disrespect
this.
and-
but listen, the thing I appreciate about their marriage is, yes, they went through that whole thing. Yes, it was public, but they got through it, and they're stronger than ever. Like, there's average people
No,
that
they're
get
not.
cheated
They're
on.
whacked. They're whacked
Oh my
up.
God.
Poor Will, you better run because Jada's super unwell. Like this whole thing. Have you seen these? I just feel like he's just holding on. Like they're like, we vowed to be together forever. Okay. We vowed to be together forever through everything and whatever. Is he committed to her as like a life partner? Yes. As the love of his life? I don't think so.
Oh.
Like there has been too much stuff going on. He was talking about too, like I feel like she's sometimes like, God forgive me, but like kind of brainwashes him a little bit. Like there's this interview that stuck with me too, because it's like he's constantly justifying like they go so deep into like coming to this random conclusion that's bullshit.
He does
And
he
it's
does look
like
a little run down, and I feel like she looks like she's super
I'm
good.
like, you poor thing. Like he so basically like they were talking about this birthday party that he planned for like years. I think it was like her 40th or something like that. I don't know the full details. And he went and he made this lavish party, spent all this money, like even I think for like when he built their house, like he put in all the bells and whistles, like and I just remember specifically when everything he did, like he threw this party and he was so excited. Every little thing was like something she would love. And it's like bigger than the next surprise. And she was like, you did this party for your ego. You didn't do this for me. And he will sit there and tell you this. He'll be like, I realized. And it's like, that's beautiful. If you can talk through with your wife and like come to this conclusion, that's great. But come on, like he did some, I don't know. It's just it's a little
For
bizarre.
how much they've been
It's
through,
just-
they're holding on by a thread, but it's fine.
Who else is on your list?
Okay, so Matt Damon and his wife have been together for 20 years. Jessica Biel and Justin Timberlake, even though they had a little 3-month breakup before they got married, they've been together for 16 years.
There's a lot of
Amanda,
things
you don't
within
have
the
to-
marriage as well.
You don't have to listen, let's just admit though, it is hard to find successful relationships in Hollywood
Oh yeah.
specifically that you can look up to as a good example. When I was trying to find a positive example, it was hard. I have one. I was looking at these long relationships you see Beyonce and JC. I'm like, no, like, sorry.
Well, I'm not
There's
saying
just
their
too
marriage
many
is
things that have happened in
goals.
these
I'm not saying they're
relationships.
goals. I'm saying it's like nice that
You're just saying people have,
they've they've
oh,
been through literally
They've
everything, and
withstand it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I don't know if they're in
and they
love,
haven't let
but
go.
yeah.
Totally. Okay. Let's give her that
Yeah, as
clarification.
opposed to like
I
no one
love,
I look up to, I would say. Like
she's not talking about like
not
goals.
goals.
She's talking about like these people weathered the storm and they're still
Yes.
together.
In Hollywood.
So they have beaten, yes, in Hollywood, they've beaten the stigma. For me personally, I think a couple that I actually look up to and I'm like, this is what I hope and believe is love is Blake Lively and Ryan
They're so
Reynolds.
cute.
The most precious couple, the love that they have, the commitment to each other, to their family, it is just something to be admired. I hope and pray that they have this love for the rest of their lives. It seems so beautiful, so genuine, so grounded, so real. Have you guys seen that
I knew you were
interview
gonna
where
bring it
she
up.
says, yes,
Such
that one crushes my
I
soul.
cried.
I don't think I've seen that
Oh,
one.
it's beautiful.
That was, she says about how daddy always comes home. Like he is on set. Like think about how non-traditional their lives are. Like he is this man who's like on set in a different country, like going to work in these crazy lavish like costumes. She says, no matter what happens, no matter what time it is, he always comes home at night. She's like, to the point where we would think something is wrong if this man doesn't walk into the house with blood or a missing arm or whatever costume or role he's playing. Like he comes straight home, no matter the situation, just to be there for his family. And it
It's
is
very
just the
sweet.
way she says it. I could never, like, it's just the most beautiful thing. Actually, I think this reminds me of another couple that I feel
Ooh.
is a couple to admire is Adrienne Bailon and her husband, and they're like very rooted in faith, and they have recently had a baby. And she talks about how in every other relationship,
She's been through it.
she's like, yes, she's been through it, and she talks about how she, you know, you feel confused, you feel less than, you feel like you're making up for things, you're going out of your way to like figure things out. She's like, this man, I feel so loved, so sure. She goes, now I love me more. I think I'm cute. I think I'm funny. I think the world of me because I have this love. And it is just see, those to me are just untouchable. And that, you know, that's the goal.
Yeah, I can't name anyone that I'm like, I would love to be them. In Hollywood.
I would love to be happy me
Yeah, that's
with
all,
my
happy.
kids and my grandkids and our dog and,
Yeah.
you know, God willing.
And our dog.
You know. Oh, Hunter.
Yeah.
Well, now we should get into what caused all the chaos in this conversation.
Yes.
Our book, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. We read chapters 24 through 51. This is really like the meat of the book. I will say I was on a roller coaster. I am really loving this book. It is making me emotional. It is like triggering in some ways. Like there's a lot that happened. So who wants to go first?
I mean, I'll piggyback off what you said because after reading these chapters, I feel like a lot was going on. But
Yes.
I had more love for the book when I first started reading it. Now I'm just like, okay, I want to get through it. Just because like all the husbands she's been through, the way she's like using some men, they're using her. Like I'm seeing like this poor woman.
It seems so transactional.
Yeah, like she didn't live like a full happy life. Like she has everything. She was in movies she wanted to be in. Like her career was blooming, but she was lonely. Like she was never truly like, yes, she had Harry. Yes.
That's why they say fame comes at a cost.
Oh, 100%. And this book shows that. Yeah. That's what I was getting at reading this. I was just like, I was like, please just, you can give up some things for happiness. But
the way I truly feel about that subject is like, I would rather be just comfortable in my little home with the love of my life and our family than be have all the money at my disposal and feel as empty as she does.
Exactly.
It is sad. You know who I felt for? I felt for Celia.
Celia was ready
I
for
feel like
that.
Celia has been, despite everything, she's more just like, okay, she's in that world, but she's more like grounded. She's more relatable. Like when they dealt with their first huge hurdle, and it's like she's doing everything to just cover everything up. And she ends up getting pregnant by Mick. And first of all, Celia's like, I didn't even know you slept with him to start. Second, then Evelyn turns to her and says, I'll handle it. And Celia says to her, you can't just handle everything. Like, you're pregnant. Now, oh, we'll just take care of this and we'll on to the next. Like, that was just, it was brutal.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like by the end, it's like, I mean, we'll get into pieces of it, but like by the end, when Celia has like had enough, like I do not blame her. This is just such a roller coaster at all costs for her image. And there was one part that really stood out to me when Evelyn is reflecting, and she said, I used my body when it was all I had, and then I kept using it even when I had other options. And that was just like, it's so true. You literally, in the beginning, I understand, but you never learned your lesson. And you're left empty. And at the end of it, she gets her Oscar, she gets all her money, and she's, Monique says to her, was it worth it? And what does she say? No.
I also felt for Celia. She wanted to go public with Evelyn, didn't want her to be with anyone else. She didn't care what anyone thought. So when it got out that they were spending too much time together, Celia was like, who cares? And then Evelyn had to come up with this whole plan to keep her a secret. And then it was funny because Celia ended up marrying John, who, knew her secret. She knew his, and they were able to do their own thing. And then John fell in love with Harry, and then her and Celia reconnected. So she eventually forgave her about sleeping with Mick. So they had their little thing going on, but that was only going to last so long.
This is also during a less accepting time. This was like during the Stonewall riots, like even if you feel uncomfortable, like we will never know what it feels like to feel the way that she does, right? And the point is, though, you got everything you could ask for. You've married Harry, who is like your best friend, who is dating Celia's man. You're like, it's like the four of them are like this happy family. It always makes sense when they're out together. They have a daughter, Connor, who they love unconditionally. Like, it doesn't get better. And I remember, like, in their situation, it's like they have, while non-traditional, they figured it out. They have each other. Harry and John have each other, and they don't have to, and they feel like they can exhale a little bit, because to the outer world, it makes sense, and they can still live their own truth in the way that they want to be and be with their, their loves of their lives. There was a moment when finally Harry's like, they went on a picnic, like the four of them, and the daughter's there, and Harry like closes his eyes. And Evelyn was like, it was like he felt heaven. Like, this is everything. What more could you ask for? And then she says, and that was, and that didn't last long. Like, and then I messed it up. And I was like, girl, like, what better scenario could you have found yourself in? And it's like, sometimes when these people just have this in them, like, it's so hard to break. But at what cost are you willing to give this up?
I feel like she also ruined it for Harry and John, who were trying to be together. And then Celia went and divorced him because she was annoyed with Evelyn. So it was like she was divorcing Evelyn.
And sadly, like, John passed away. So then Harry was so distraught. They couldn't keep up with this. And then it's like, she moves on to the next person. And yes, she like actually felt something this time. But I was like, why do you have to keep marrying them? Can't you just date them? Can't you just wait and just sit and just enjoy it and date, for a while, and then learn?
And even the ending where she was talking, she was basically saying, she wished she did more for people that were like her. That's where she feel like if she could do anything again, it would be, she wished she did come out so other people could feel comfortable to be that way too. So I feel like the self-reflect when she was older kind of came a little too late, but I'm curious to see if she gets her happy ending. I'm like wondering what happens with that.
There was one part when Evelyn was, we pulled back out of the story, and Evelyn is talking to Monique, and she says to her, make sure you write down that I'm a bad person. Make sure you make it clear that I'm not good. And I was just like, she, at this point, she knows her story. Like she's paying for her mistakes. She's definitely paying for it. She does not seem happy. It's sad. When she thanked Celia in her Oscar speech, when she finally got her Oscar and she's no longer with her and she's saying her thank yous, and then at the end she says, I would have stopped there 10 years ago. But then I said that there's this one woman that or there's somebody that I think about every single day, and I know that she's watching, and I need to say thank you to her. I cried. I was like, this is so sad. And like Celia's probably watching it, like, this is just devastating. It's just so
Exactly. I
just
didn't
wanted
feel
to
bad
shake
because I was
her.
like, this is your fault.
Oh
So
my
when I read,
gosh.
when I listened
It's
to that
so
part, I was like,
tragic.
you did it to yourself.
It is so tragic.
So ultimately, Cecilia leaves Evelyn because she shot a film that was super risque, if you know what I'm getting at, with her ex-husband.
She just kept
Mm.
like, she just never quit. Like, I just can't. And then she tried to backpedal and be like, let me fix this. Because what I should have done was talk to Celia. So she's like, let me pretend it didn't happen yet. And then Celia, rightfully so, was like, I don't have it in me to do this one more time.
Do you think she's just looking for attention? Is that what the issue is? Like, she just
Evelyn?
needs constant attention?
Oh yeah, I think she just cares too much. Like her career trumps anything, it seems like.
I think she just can't get out of this cycle that she's put herself in from young. It's like,
It's like a drug for her.
Was to like get to the next step and get to the next step. When Evelyn was apologizing to Celia because she ended up admitting, I already filmed that scene. That would make you so uncomfortable that you're saying you can't get over that, this, that. And Celia was like, I cannot anymore. Like, that was it. Like, how much has she really sacrificed? Even during filming, she was saying how, poor Celia, like, she would go late every day. She was apologizing to her every day. Like, it was like a skeleton of their relationship, and she put up with it. And now this was just like, after everything they've been through, you've gone and done this and haven't consulted her whatsoever.
And this time she does try and fight for her. She does go to her hotel. She says, I'm sorry, like, forgive me. And literally Celia's like, I'm just done. Like, all you care about is yourself.
Yes.
Like, there was no saving that relationship.
That's what I was going to say. Yes. And Evelyn says to her, I will stop acting. Like, I won't do any more movies. Like, I'm done. I'll do anything.
Sometimes enough is just enough, though.
100%. Sometimes it's just too little too late. But Celia turned to her in that moment and said, no, you won't. She said to her, my biggest failure, but the biggest tragedy in my life is that I couldn't make you love me enough to stay or to want to like do the, she couldn't make her love her enough.
But
that's
really,
how she feels.
Evelyn just didn't love herself.
What Evelyn said too was like, she loved that world and that life just as much as she loved like Celia or anything else. And that was the problem. Like, she just couldn't quit it. And they both knew she couldn't. And that's why Celia left. Like, even if you could work through it, like, they knew the truth for sure. So then what happens is after we pull back into like normal life, we realize like Monique has her own stuff going on, which I think this has been, honestly, it's been beneficial to her in two ways. It's been a learning experience for her, and it's pushed her to grow. It's pushed her to have perspective. So now Monique is going finally back home. She's checking her phone. Like, she realizes she has a voicemail from her ex. And if you remember from the beginning, Monique and David are going through a divorce. He left for San Francisco. It was kind of like a ruthless move. And she's just like left in her little apartment alone. She's like struggling with opening this voicemail. I'm like, oh gosh. And she opens it. And he's like, I'm here. I'm back in New York. I'm in our apartment. Well, your apartment. And she has to go home and like confront him. And this is the part where I feel like you can just see her growth, because before too, it was like she's just like, in this slump, and she's always thinking about it, and she's looking around her apartment and she sees the emptiness. Now David is there and he's made himself comfortable, and she even pointed out afterward that he looked like he thought he was going to stay the night. And he basically said to her, like, we can make this work. Like, I think that, I messed up by just leaving, and maybe you messed up by not thinking like we could make it work long distance, or then eventually you could come, or we could figure it out, and this, that. And she was just playing back everything that Evelyn has said. And she just like pointed to all these examples, and then she looks up at him and she like finds her voice, and she said, what comes out of my mouth not only surprised him, but it surprised me. And she was like, I did not make a mistake. And she was like, this, when you're not in here saying, I missed you so much, I can't breathe without you, we have to make this work at all costs. You're saying like, oh, like, we could figure this out, this, that, and the other. She's like, that's the moment that I realized that I was not heartbroken. I was not sad. My feelings were of failure. I failed. I settled. I picked the wrong guy. She's like, it wasn't, the love of my life that I'm devastated over that's across the country. It's that I was a failure in this, and we failed our marriage. And those are totally different things. And I was like, good for her for reflecting. He literally put on his jacket and left. And she's like, he looked like he thought he was going to stay. Like, he was probably so shocked that she stood her ground.
Good for her.
It's sad too, because we care so much. You don't want to fail. You don't want to admit that your marriage is over, and like, you care about appearances and all that, but to what extent?
And I'm sure if she didn't go through all this with Evelyn, she might have been in a different headspace. She might have said, let's work it out. Let's do what we have to do.
And remember, her mom didn't even like him.
Totally.
That was very telling. Yeah.
Which is, huge.
Moms always know everything.
They just like,
I really want your mom to send us videos of you singing.
I don't know if she has any, girl. I don't know if she has any. Maybe if you like catch me on a good day, like we can like sing in the car together. That's as far as it'll go. But the videos, like, I have done everything to take care of those videos. I've also, like, I had a moment in my life, and I regret it now, but I was a kid and I was uncomfortable with myself. This is so sad, but I used to cut my face out of photos because I was so embarrassed. Like, I went through like a period when I was like I think I want to say like early high school, middle school, where I was just like awkward and I felt overweight and I just hated myself. And I would cut myself out of all our family photos. If you look at them, there's holes in them. My head is out, and it's so sad now. I feel for that little girl that felt that way. Like, I do.
Oh, yeah. Well, hopefully if you have a daughter one day, you'll be able to tell her that story so she could love herself more when she's going through a hard time.
You know what I heard? There was a piece of advice that someone gave on social media that was like, when you see photos of yourself in front of your kid, don't sit here and be like, oh, look at my arm. Oh, I don't look good there. Oh, I look so bad. Every picture you see, like, this is the example you don't realize you're setting. You look at it and you say like, oh, wow, I love this picture. No matter what, because, and it's so true. Like, your kids are not going to look back on this photo and be like, oh, look at mommy's weird arm. Like, it's so silly.
Yeah. Photos are meant to be like good memories, memories in the moment.
I definitely feel type of way now that I did that. But what are you going to do? I think
my mom would have hid the pictures from me if I was doing that.
I know. Forget it. She was shattered. Like, she obviously didn't know. And I didn't, obviously. I wasn't old enough to really understand the gravity of what I was doing. This isn't the age where we had everything on a cell phone either. Like, those are gone and lost now. But I was young. I didn't know. I do know. I wouldn't do that now. Okay.
On that note, we will be finishing the rest of the book for next week, so stay tuned, girlies. And Amanda, do you want to plug in our socials?
Please follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Threads at Book Please Podcast. We're also on Twitter at Book Please Pod. And if you are watching on YouTube, please make sure to subscribe. Thanks, everyone.
I love that.
Yes, and we're on YouTube, guys, for all of you listening, at Book Please Podcast. Go find us and watch. Now we're doing full video episodes, and we're so excited.
Ciao.
Bye.